Today, we're diving into an explainer that honestly feels like it was ripped right out of a classic noir detective novel. We're talking about a story full of locked doors, missing evidence, and a version of reality that simply does not add up. We are exploring one of the internet's absolute most enduring and frankly perplexing puzzles, the mystery of the man from Taured.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. What if you woke up tomorrow and your country, your home, your entire history just simply no longer existed? And I don't mean that it was conquered or renamed. I mean that everyone around you genuinely believed it had never been there in the very first place. That terrifying, very personal scenario is exactly where our story begins today. And to really understand it, we have to transport ourselves back in time to what should have been a completely normal summer day.
So, picture this. It's July 1954. The location is Tokyo International Airport. Passengers are arriving, planes are landing, customs officers are just doing their routine passport checks. Everything is completely, totally ordinary. Well, that is, until one specific man steps up to the customs counter. He's well-dressed, perfectly calm, highly confident, and he's carrying a stack of official documents. There is absolutely nothing suspicious about him. And let's be real, if there is one place you do not want to act suspicious, it's international customs. But then the officer asks him just a standard, everyday question. Where are you from?
The traveler just looks right back at the officer, doesn't miss a beat, and gives a simple, confident answer. Taured. The officers immediately look confused. I mean, they've never heard of such a country. Thinking it's just a misunderstanding or, maybe a mispronunciation, they ask him again. But the man's answer remains exactly the same. Taured. He actually starts to appear a little annoyed by their confusion, and he insists that Taured is a real country in Europe, located right between France and Spain, with this rich history stretching back 1,000 years.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer collision of two entirely different realities. The officers, they pull out a map and point directly to the spot between France and Spain. But the country there isn't Taured. It's Andorra, which is a small, very real nation in the Pyrenees Mountains that's existed for hundreds of years. The traveler looks at the map and becomes incredibly frustrated. He vehemently insists that the officer's map is wrong. He claims he has literally never heard of Andorra in his entire life and that his ancient nation of Taured is just inexplicably missing from their world. So here is where it gets absolutely wild. If the guy was just confused or making the whole thing up, you'd think his story would just fall apart immediately, right? But the situation quickly becomes very, very strange because the man isn't just telling a story, he actually has the physical proof. His passport appears completely genuine. It's filled with official entry and exit stamps, international travel records, and visa markings from multiple countries, proving he's been traveling for decades. And on top of that, he's carrying bank records and company identification cards, all of them listing Taured as his country of origin. The stamps look totally legitimate, there's zero sign of forgery, and yet the nation simply does not exist. At this point, the airport officials are highly concerned and, frankly, deeply confused, so they decide they need to buy some time to investigate. They escort the traveler to a nearby hotel and initiate this strict lockdown procedure. Step 1, they place him in a secure, high-floor room. Step 2, they station guards directly outside the exits to watch the room all night long. And Step 3, they confiscate all of his documents, his passport, his bank records, his ID, all of it, just for further examination. By all accounts, there is absolutely no way this man could leave unnoticed. But then, the next morning, the door is opened, and the traveler is gone. Completely gone. The room is totally empty. The guards swear up and down that nobody left, and absolutely no one entered. There are no signs of escape, just an eerie, heavy silence in a room that, just hours before, held an impossible man. But wait, it wasn't just the man who vanished. The story gets even stranger when you look at the secure facility holding all of his belongings. You have to consider the sheer scale of what vanished here. The traveler, the passport, the company papers, literally all the physical evidence. The confiscated documents disappeared just as seamlessly as the man himself. He vanished without a trace and somehow took every single piece of impossible proof right along with him. Which leaves us with this massive, glaring question. How exactly did he vanish from a guarded hotel room? We're moving out of suspense thriller territory and right into an investigative reality here, because this is the exact question that has fascinated millions of people. A man with official documents from a non-existing country just vanishes into thin air. It sounds like the absolute perfect mystery. But to solve it, we really need to look for the evidence he left behind.
To answer that question, modern researchers have dug incredibly deep. They've meticulously combed through 1954 archives. They searched local and international newspapers. They formally requested government records. They even dug into Tokyo International Airport reports and scoured police documents. I mean, if a man caused a massive international incident and then pulled a vanishing act from a guarded hotel room, surely there would be some kind of paper trail, right?
And the grand total of all the evidence they found? Zero. Absolutely none. There is no official report from Tokyo Airport. There are no police investigation records. Not even a single newspaper article from 1954 mentions this event. For a story this extraordinary, that is a monumental twist. There is absolutely zero evidence that this event ever actually happened. So if there's literally no evidence, how on earth did this story become one of the most famous mysteries in the world? Well, it evolved over decades. You start with 1954, which is the year the incident allegedly took place. Then, right on its heels in 1957, a groundbreaking scientific theory is proposed that provides the perfect science fiction backdrop. And finally, you hit the 2000s. The internet gets a hold of these two elements, and the legend absolutely explodes.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is the fascinating scientific theory that really gave this myth its staying power. Back in 1957, a physicist named Hugh Everett proposed the many worlds interpretation. It's this mind-bending scientific idea that every single quantum event creates multiple possible outcomes, and each outcome exists in its own completely separate universe. Suddenly, the Taured story wasn't just some weird rumor anymore. It had a theoretical scientific framework. I mean, what if the traveler wasn't lying? What if he just accidentally slipped from his universe into ours?
It's basically like flipping a coin. In Universe A, our reality, the coin lands heads, and that country in the Pyrenees is called Andorra. But in Universe B, the coin lands tails. History unfolds just slightly differently, and that exact same piece of land is occupied by a 1,000-year-old nation called Taured. It is such a fascinating thought, even if science has obviously never verified that anyone can actually travel between these worlds. So without any real hard evidence, but armed with a super cool scientific theory, the internet did exactly what the internet does best: legend building. Before the web, this whole thing might have just remained a forgotten local rumor, but online, stories never really die. They evolve. Every single retelling of the man from Taured added a new detail, a new theory, a more dramatic twist. The mystery stopped being about facts and evidence altogether and just completely transformed into this digital myth that grew larger and more mysterious as time went on. Which brings us to arguably the most fascinating question of the whole explainer. Why does this specific mystery survive without any evidence? Because think about it, most unsolved mysteries just fade away when people realize there's no actual proof. But Taured, it only got stronger. The facts, or, the lack of facts, produce completely different conclusions depending on who you asked. The mystery isn't really about Tokyo or passports anymore. It's deeply, deeply psychological.
I think the man from Taured survives because it taps into this primal, deeply human emotion, the fear of becoming a stranger in your own world. Think about it for a second. You know your history, you know your home, you know your identity. Then suddenly, literally nobody believes you. Every single map disagrees with you. That is terrifying. It's not just a story about geography, it is fundamentally a story about identity and our innate, deep-seated fear of losing it.
It also just highlights the incredible power of asking what if. As humans, we desperately want to believe that reality is a whole lot bigger than what we currently understand. Stories like this invite imagination. They challenge our rigid assumptions about how reality works. They represent our unending desire to explore the unknown. Ultimately, the story of Taured keeps our curiosity alive. It reminds us that there might still be some wild secrets waiting right out there, just beyond the edges of our maps.
The traveler from Taured is probably never going to be fully explained, but the legend has achieved this sort of immortality, not through proof, but through the absolute wonder it inspires. So I want to leave you with a thought to take with you today. As we look out into the universe and wonder about parallel worlds and alternate timelines, what if somewhere, in another reality, right at this very moment, a traveler is sitting down telling an unbelievable story about a strange, impossible country called Earth?